What's good with y'all? So this video is about Anubis. Got my iPad because I made sure to pretty much write down the key points that I want to hit about Anubis, so I cover everything. And yeah, let's hop right into this. So the first thing we're going to do is define what Anubis actually represents. Now, Anubis represents your discerning intellect, intellectual discernment. Discernment means the ability to judge something well. And in Christian terms, it pretty much means perception without judgment that leads you to God, pretty much. Now, perception without judgment, here's what all that shit means. So I'm going to make a video about perception versus interpretation. Basically, just know that you need a clear perception to have a clear interpretation. That clear interpretation is discernment. You feel me? When you properly think, when you think properly, when you judge things properly, you're discerning shit properly, and that's what Anubis represents. Being able to discern things properly, knowing the real from the unreal, the good from the bad, the right from the wrong. And it's this aspect of yourself that leads you to the tree of life, even if you never ever studied the tree of life a day in your life, due to the fact that the tree of life is just a system that shows how you evolve. Like, studying it can help you evolve, but everyone evolves along the tree of life. Like, once you become spiritual and start evolving, you're going up the tree of life, regardless of if you realize it or not. Now, Anubis has two aspects. You have the Anpu aspect and then the Wepawawet. I can never pronounce that right, but it's spelled Wepwawet. We also call it Apuat. Now, the Anpu form is more of an earthly form that basically just like, it helps you see things clearly on the earth. You start seeing the bullshit on earth. You see what's the real shit on earth, and the higher aspect helps you to see the real shit in the higher realms. Pretty simple. Now, Anubis has a jackal head. You feel me? Now, why does he have that jackal head? Now, the first reason why is because dogs, right, are seen as protectors, and it's your discerning intellect, your ability to know the real from the unreal, that will protect your soul from getting involved inside worldly activities that will likely cause you suffering. This level of discernment, right, when developed, will literally bite the head off of all ignorance, like how the dog will bite the head off of an attacker, if the dog's wild enough. So it's like, yeah, you'll bite the head off of all ignorance with your discernment. You'll be like, nope, that's some bullshit. You'll just already know. And with that being said, and also the second reason why. Second reason why is because dogs are seen as instinctual beings. And knowing right from wrong, good from bad, real from unreal, when it comes to Anubis, it represents knowing that level of instinct. You don't have to think about that shit. You know that shit at instinct. And this explains why Anubis actually weighs the heart. Now, when Anubis gets referred to as the god of death a lot due to the fact that he weighs the heart and the fact that he also mummifies people, like he embalms them. Now, when Anubis is embalming you, right, he is embalming you with discernment. You feel me? And the thing is, what do? You embalm dead bodies. Why is this? Why is Anubis that's doing that? Well, Anubis was born from Osiris sleeping with Nebuchadnezzar, and because Osiris slept with Nebuchadnezzar, he got killed by Set. Now, because your soul mixed with mortal awareness, right, you basically killed your soul on some level, which made you discern that you shouldn't have got caught up with mortal awareness. So you mixing with mortal awareness is what has led you to have this discernment. That's what leads you to say, holy shit, I shouldn't do this. Holy shit, I should do that. Every time you get involved with the world and it makes you feel like negative, that's because you made it with Nebuchadnezzar. You had sex with Nebuchadnezzar, and then sex constantly kills you. Your ego constantly tears your soul into pieces because you're not seeing shit clearly. But every time you interact with the world and it kind of, backfires on you, you start seeing like, holy shit, I shouldn't really do that. And then you'll start eventually learning why you shouldn't do that shit. And this explains more why he weighs your heart, because it shows why he embalms your dead body now. It's because he's embalming you with discernment now, so that you don't die again. You feel me? There's more reasons why he embalms you. There's a whole lot of mythology with that shit. But that's the main point that we're talking about is what I said. And also, here's why he weighs the heart. Is this aspect of yourself, your discerning intellect at the level of instinct, your instinctual discerning intellect. It's that part of yourself that determines whether or not you're going to reincarnate. Why? Because at the time of death, shit is very impulsive, you know? You get propelled by your desires, whether they be worldly desires or spiritual desires. You feel me? It's all impulsive though. Now, if you don't know what's real and not real at the level of instinct, you may still have worldly desires. Now, inside of this world, right, you may control it somewhat, but you still had a desire inside you regardless, you feel me? At the time of death, it's no somewhat controlling it. If it's there, then it's there. It's going to propel you forward, you feel me? And therefore, you will reincarnate. Now, what is this? How can we see this even more? You know how sometimes you know that something is bad. You know something is wrong, right? But you still do it. Why would you do that? The reason why is because you understand conceptually that yeah, it's bad, yeah, it's wrong. But conceptually, nothing is bad or wrong or nothing like that. You feel me? What I think is wrong, you may think is right. And if you truly believe that it's right, you're going to live a life based upon thinking that it's actually right. And it's going to look right to you no matter what. Now, with that being said, discerning real from unreal, right from wrong, good from bad in this context literally means that you consider, is this healthy for me? Is this thought helpful to me? Is this emotion harming me? Is this behavior harming me? Are my circumstances benefiting me? Am I getting in tune with the source? Is this leading me away from the source? When you compare things to this type of context of you just simply thinking, is this benefiting me? Is it not benefiting me, right? When you think about shit like that, that's discerning whether something is right or wrong, good or bad, blah, 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 blah. Because, hold on, I had a brain fart. Oh, because it's not about morals. It's not about what society says. It's not about being a good human being or whatnot. No, it's about what the fuck is harming you, what the fuck's not harming you. And at a certain point, let me make sure I don't go past. At a certain point, you realize that there's only really one true thing to do. This is why in my Life is Meaningless video, I kind of say that at the end this leads you to Anubis, because you start seeing that this whole entire time, right? Life kind of has been meaningless, or at least you never knew the meaning, and you always been giving life a meaning to begin with. At some point, do you realize, holy shit, I've always been giving life a meaning. I've always been doing this. This leads you to start searching out for the true meaning of life, or it tries to you start trying to think properly and feel properly and all this type of stuff. Eventually, you will get led to the point, whether it takes fucking weeks, months, years, lifetimes, you eventually get to the point where you fucking see why all the religions say the same exact thing, which is getting in tune with the source. You realize, you discern that all this other shit is fake, and the only real thing is literally the source, and everything else is a fucking illusion. Therefore, you get in tune with the source, and then you act upon how the source just has you act. Now, here's what the Bible says about discernment, because I have Bible quotes. You feel me? Now, I don't have exactly where it came from. However, I looked up discernment in the Bible on Google. I found a website that gave me a list of where all these shits came from. And yeah, so I'm gonna just read a couple. To the discerning, all of them are right. They are upright to those who have knowledge. The heart of the discerning acquires knowledge, for the ears of the wise to seek out. Another one. Solid food is for the mature, for those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice to distinguish good from evil. Constant practice because, like I said, your discernment is coming from your soul, getting caught up in mortal and physical awareness and stuff like that. You feel me? You constantly getting caught in physical awareness helps build your discernment, because now you start seeing the illusions inside your behavior. Every time you get caught up in physical awareness, you start seeing the illusions behind that. Hopefully you do, at least, you know? Another one. Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment. What's Anubis? Right thinking, right judgment, right feeling, right acting, all that shit. Pure discernment. You feel me? Right thinking, right judgment. What does discernment mean? To have a right judgment, literally. To judge things properly. That's what it means. Another quote. Whoever is wise, let him understand these things. Whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the upright walk in them, but transgressors stumble in them. So, as you can see, the Bible talks about discernment a lot. And I'm pretty sure it's the Holy Spirit that gives you the power of discernment. And if that is true, I could link this shit all back to Egyptian mythology also. with that. Now, if it's the Father that does it, it still makes sense and I get it. But if it's the Holy Spirit, I'm gonna look this shit up. If it's the Holy Spirit that gives you the power of discernment, I could link that shit back to Egyptian mythology, no cap. Now, here's an Egyptian quote that pretty much sums up what Anubis leads you to realize. He leads you to realize this: searching for oneself in the world is the pursuit of an illusion. People are always trying to find out, what's my purpose? What should I be doing? All this other stuff, right? And they're searching for themselves inside the outside world, which will always lead to a dead end. You'll never ever find yourself in the world. And being in tune with Anubis helps you realize that you start saying, like I said, all of this is an illusion. All this shit is fake. You feel me? Now, you don't have a hate towards it or a sadness to it, because if you do, then that means you're not actually seeing things properly. You feel me? You start seeing things clearly, though. There's not really a negative emotion there. There's actually more of a peaceful, more freeing emotion. You know, and as you see that, a lot of stuff that you thought was real is not really real like that. You start seeing that the only real thing is the source. Therefore, you should only want to get in tune with the source. Now, here's a hymn to Anubis, and I'm gonna give you guys this hymn to better that, because it's gonna help you better understand him. You know, you guys have the general overview, and you pretty much have what he is, but it's gonna help you guys a bit more. So it says, "O Anubis, opener of the ways, the roads of the north. O Anubis, opener of the ways, the roads of the south, the messenger between heaven and hell, displaying alternately a face black as night and golden as day. He is equally watchful by day as by night." Now, let me explain the first part. O Anubis, opener of the ways, the roads of the north. O Anubis, opener of the ways, the roads of the south. So the north and the south represent Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt, which also represent the lower mind and the higher mind. And Anubis opens you up to both of these. Now, it says, the messenger between heaven and hell, displaying alternately a face as black as night and golden as day. The messenger between heaven and hell, because Anubis sees and is in contact with all the evil shit and with all the positive shit. Like, he's not cool with evil shit, but he understands and can interpret why evil shit happens. He knows why people do negative things. He knows why people should do positive things, but he sees all of that shit. So whatever the fuck the demons know, he knows. Whatever the fuck the angels know, he know. You feel me? Here's why that's actually a good thing. If you know why somebody's evil, right, you're less likely to hate them. And you're also less likely to become evil your damn self. And you'll probably find out a efficient way to deal with the evil around you in the most efficient way possible, in the most beneficial way possible to you, you know? Now, when you don't understand evil, you tend to hate evil people, which is reasonable, because if you don't understand them, I see why you would hate those evil ass motherfuckers. But like I said, when you understand them and you see shit clearly, one, you lose the hate inside yourself that kind of distorts your own thinking. You feel me? You see shit clearly and you act upon shit clearly. You feel shit clearly, and you always commit the right actions. And you don't get yourself caught up in the bad, negative situations of worldly activities and stuff like that. You know? So that's why it's just a messenger between heaven and hell, because he knows and he sees what goes on inside, both the very positive shit and the very negative shit. Now, this part's also important. He is equally watchful by day as by night, because Anubis also represents the concept of mindfulness, basically being discerning towards your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and circumstances. You start considering, okay, is this thought healthy for me? Is this emotion correct? Should I really feel this way? Should I really be acting this way? Are these circumstances really benefiting me? You know, you're constantly doing that, and you're constantly being aware of what enters in your mind. Every time a thought enters your mind, you consider it. Is this thought true, or is this thought based upon illusion? You know, is this emotion true, or is it based upon illusion? You know, you're constantly doing that. And this will span into your dreams, literally. You'll start seeing the illusions inside your dreams, and you'll become more lucid because you see the illusions inside your thinking, inside your feeling. And your dreams are just big symbolic representations of all this type of shit. So you'll start seeing and discerning your dreams properly, and you'll actually become more lucid inside your dreams. That's why he's equally watchful by day and by night, because at some point, when you go to sleep, you don't play with the illusions. And most people go to sleep and they'll have dreams that are based upon illusions. You may have a dream about a desire that you really have, but that desire is based upon an illusion, you know? And it's like, you'll still have that dream and you may still feel good about that dream, but it's based upon illusion. And at the end of the day, you were unconscious that whole entire dream. Anubis will actually help you become conscious inside your dreams. Now when random ass weird bullshit happens, you're not just gonna let that shit slide. You're gonna discern and be like, hold the fuck up. Did that shit really just happen? And you'll gain more awareness inside your dreams. You'll gain awareness inside the higher astral planes. You'll gain it inside the causal plane. And then you'll be led to the transcendental reality, And that's why it's this aspect that literally weighs the heart and that leads you to the tree of life and stuff like that. Because you start seeing shit really clearly all the time, when you're sleeping, when you're awake, no matter what, in your dreams, in the astral plane, when you're awake all the time. So that's what that part means. Now, all right, the best label to give Anubis. Now, the best label to give him is what I've been saying, the discerning intellect. The reason why is because the intellect is what thinks and is what deciphers things to pretty much find out what it is. Your intellect separates things in comparison to what it's not. So, for example, is it this or is it that? Do I go left or do I go right? Is it up or is it down? Is this good? Is it bad? Is this right? Is it wrong? Like, when you say this is a water bottle, right? I now know that this is a water bottle and that it's not something else. When you label something, you say what it is and you also imply what it's not. This is a jacket, therefore it's not a fucking blanket. You feel me? If I say I'm looking for my sweater, that tells you I'm looking for my sweater and not for my shoes. When you label something and do intellectual shit, when you make these judgments, right, and you separate things from one another and stuff like that, you feel me? You're doing it to find out what exactly it actually is. Now, with that being said, Anubis, your discerning intellect discerns, okay, this is good. If I do this action, if I do X, then this leads to that. Now that is bad, therefore this action is bad. However, it discerns way more. It thinks about all the good, all the bad. It thinks about all that shit. If there even is any good, or if the good is really just an illusion that really just satisfies the belief in separation. Because the belief in separation is what's really that's what causes your ego. And some things you may think are good because it satisfies your ego. And your discerning intellect will be able to realize, okay, I think this is good because it satisfies my ego. It may see the real benefits of that. It may see all the real negatives of that. But it considers all that shit and can make a well-informed decision from there. And that's why it's your discerning intellect, because it separates, okay, this is good, this is bad, but then it comes to a stable conclusion, which means that your intellect, right? Your intellect is not a bad thing. It's just that people often get caught at intellect, trying to often decipher fucking everything. And it's like, no, your intellect should be used for discerning what's real and what's not real. That's what your intellect should be used for, discerning what's right and what's wrong. It's what it should be used for. Now, I think that's, oh yeah, I think I wrapped up everything I had to say. So pretty much Egyptian, wow, wow. So pretty much Anubis, right, is the Egyptian god that represents your discerning intellect on an instinctual level, knowing right from wrong, good from bad, real from unreal at the level of instinct. Now, what's good and bad, right and wrong is not dependent upon morals. It's dependent upon, is this thing harmful to you? Is this thing benefiting you? Is it taking you away from the source? Getting in tune with this part of yourself eventually leads you to the tree of life, because it helps you, because it makes you realize that the life you're experiencing is low-key based upon an illusion. Everyday life, right, that has been given to us is kind of meaningless, you know? And the only real thing in life is the source. Therefore, you realize you should get in tune with the source. And then you eventually do that stuff. You fully get in tune with the source. You start knowing how you should act. And then eventually, at the time of death, right, if you were able to build a good level of discernment, you will no longer reincarnate due to the fact that you've seen the illusion inside all the worldly desires. Therefore, worldly desires can't push you into the world. Now you either have higher desires or it's just the only desire to get in tune with the source. You may have some other shits like that lead to the higher planes of existence, but eventually you get led to the source, because you, even in your higher lifetimes, you'll see the illusions inside those, because you have the higher aspect of Anubis also. The Apuat part, you have him that's going to help you discern right from wrong, good from bad, real from unreal inside the higher realms also. However, if you haven't reached a high level of discernment, then at the time of death, you may still have worldly desires due to the fact that you don't see the illusion inside of them. And because of this, you will get reincarnated based upon your worldly desires, because your worldly desires going to push you into the world. Anubis comes from the fact that your soul had gotten tuned with physical awareness, and because of that, it experienced kind of a death to itself. It kind of lost itself at first. However, it taught the soul to realize, it taught the soul to not get caught up in these activities again. Now, some things may be easier for you to get rid of. Like, for example, you may be able to stop doing drugs, but you can't stop having sex, you know? You may be able to stop playing video games, but you can't stop procrastinating type shit. Like, it may be some shit like that, you feel me? So it's like, some shit will be easy to stop, some shit won't be easy to stop. And that is dependent upon your karma. Basically, over these past lifetimes and through your genetics, what have you always been caught up in? If you have been caught up in a cycle of drugs for all your lifetime, it's gonna be hard to break that opposed to the video game shit that may have been a new cycle, you feel me? However, eventually, if you get into it Anubis and you see the illusions, you'll start to break all these cycles regardless of how long they've been there. And then when you die, since you understand the illusion at the level of instinct, you'll be propelled into the higher levels of existence. However, if you don't have the discernment, you won't be propelled forward. You'll be propelled back into the worldly situations because you have worldly desires that you don't see the illusions in. And yeah, that's pretty much Anubis right there. That's how he leads you to the tree of life. That's what he represents. And I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.